Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am the Omni viewer, and as is tradition, whenever I release a new book, I do a trailer and then I do a little follow-up in order to further explain what it actually is. Although if you've been following me for long enough, you might have some idea of what it's about, maybe better than if you're a newcomer. All the same, why break with tradition, right? So, as I announced just before Halloween even, I have a new book out on Amazon right now, Occult Mafia 2, Hoofprints and Lace. This is an interesting one for me because it is my first sequel, my fourth novel, and my fifth overall published work. So that's significant, I feel. It is, of course, as I mentioned, a sequel. That is a sequel to the first Occult Mafia story. Now, I did try to design it in such a way that it is a self-contained story, but a lot of stuff is referred to that happens in the first book, so I don't recommend specifically starting with it. You probably want to get the first book first and read that. But what makes this one also interesting is that it is about something that I've wanted to write about for a very long time, and that is the Jersey Devil. Now, I was actually born in New Jersey. I've lived in New England for most of my life, so I consider myself a New Englander. However, I was still born in New Jersey. That is the state of my birth. And when you are from New Jersey, there are certain things that are just obligatory. You eat Jersey Mike's subs, you listen to Bruce Springsteen and Bon Jovi, and you know the story of the Jersey Devil. Those are the three things. If there are any other things, I mean, obviously I don't have a New Jersey accent, so I'm guessing that's optional. But those other three things, I've got covered. And the Jersey Devil is something that's always fascinated me. Of course, for those of you who are, say, not from America, you might not know what I'm talking about. I do explain things in the novel, but the Jersey Devil is basically one of the oldest American folk tales. A very unusual one to boot. Like, it's weird. You don't normally see the Jersey Devil pop up that much. Even though the Jersey Devil and that legend has been known for centuries, whether it's through just saying it's a local legend or through sightings of it, because there is a chance there's something there that might actually be a real creature, it's been well known. And yet it wasn't until like the late 90s that we even got a movie that featured it. That was called The Last Broadcast. And even then, I mean, it's not really about the Jersey Devil. I'll talk about that movie some other day. But it's just so strange to me that the Jersey Devil doesn't get more attention, especially among horror fans. Again, if you're a horror fan, maybe you've heard the legend, but how many tales are there really about it? I wanted to do something that would sort of bring the Jersey Devil to the forefront. And, of course, this being an occult mafia story, you can imagine there's more to it than meets the eye. I went through a whole bunch of different folk tales that were either variations on the Jersey Devil's birth or tales that linked him to other folkloric characters from the Pine Barrens forest and all these other things. The mass sightings of 1907 and whatnot. And I basically sort of have been, for years, trying to put together something that would make for an unconventional Jersey Devil story. And I don't want to give away too much here, but I did feel like introducing him by way of the Occult Mafia would be an interesting way to do it. I mean, Occult Mafia is heavily inspired by the Universal monsters, of course. Again, portraying them in unconventional ways. You've got your archetypal monsters you would find there. Werewolf, vampire, mummy, swamp creature, monster hunter, that kind of thing. But again, depicted in different ways. And even before I had really nailed down that idea, I had a very specific vision of what I wanted a Jersey Devil story to be. And that would have been even more unconventional. Still is. So, sort of combining them, I feel like that's the Universal movie we never got. Universal never touched the Jersey Devil, of course, and they never, by extension, incorporated it with other creatures. But I feel like this was a good way to go. At least I hope it was. You may notice that when you pick it up and read it, it's much shorter than the first book. I don't know how that happened, really. I'm of the opinion that a story should only be as long as it needs to be. That's actually a philosophy that Edgar Allan Poe also had, which is why he wrote predominantly short stories and one, almost novel-length thing. I think it was a novel, or maybe it was a novella. Either way, everything but one thing he wrote was short. And I'm of the opinion that he was spot on, really. I just wrote this story until it was over. And yes, as it was revised, I did find stuff that needed to be added here and there, but I didn't want to pad it. I try to avoid that with my stories. If it takes like 300 or 500 pages to tell a story, then fine. But if it can only be told in 100, then it can only be told in 100. That's my philosophy. So this one is shorter than the first one, but then again, the first one also had a lot of introducing to do. And I think that's predominantly why it wound up being longer. Hopefully, though, it's not so short that it's over before you can really have a chance to enjoy it. But anyway, I've just, that's what I've been working on recently. I do still have the space opera that's coming soon. I do not have a release date for that yet because, well, it's still undergoing revisions. I still gotta get in touch with an artist about doing the cover art. So I'm probably, I wish I could tell you exactly when it's gonna be ready, but Hoofprints and Lace currently is ready. It's up on Amazon right now, and I would appreciate it if you guys purchased it and continued supporting me. But I mean, again, whenever I do a collectible review of something, I always tell people don't spend beyond your means. I mean, I still find that applicable here, but the book's not that expensive. So, you know, when you have the chance, please, by all means, pick it up, give it a read, leave a review, and there will be many more to come after this. And yes, there are sequels to things like Operation Red Dragon in the works as well still, but the next thing you see from me will likely be the space opera, so keep your eyes open for that. And surprisingly, I managed to get this all done in one take, so I'm just going to cut it here and say thank you all for your support up to this point, and thank you for your support in the future. And until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off.